Hello all, welcome to this lesson all about the active and passive voice. We're waiting for things to load. Okay, the active and passive voice or active and passive verbs are something we have encountered this year already. This is though something that some of us have found a little bit tricky. So what I wanted to do is not only go over what we have learned, but give you a little bit more reason and a few more rules and explanations about the active voice and the passive voice, or active verbs and passive verbs. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's just start with those words, active and passive. What do these words actually mean? What does active mean? And what does passive mean? Have a look at these pictures to see if you can work out what those words mean. You could pause the video now if you wanted to have a think about it or to discuss it with someone that you're working with. Okay, active then. Let's start with active. So I've just written a few things here. Active, to act, to do an activity. We can see that root act and active in all of these things. These are words, phrases, expressions, ideas, which makes us think of action. Action again, you can see that act in it. It's all guns blazing, lots of things happening. It's active. You're actively doing a thing. Passive is an antonym, the opposite of active. It implies passivity, which means the opposite of activity. So instead of something being actively done, passive means something is sort of done to you. You're passive in that sense. You might say, oh, no, thanks, I'll pass. That might be an easy way to think of it. It's to not be active, to not get too involved. Instead of things that make us think of action, there are the things that make us think of stillness or things happening around us or to us. Okay, so let's have a think of some real life examples. Uh, do you do these things actively or passively or both? So you pause the video here, take a little while to discuss with the person with you or to have a think about what you think is happening here. Are these things happening actively or passively? Okay, so here are some suggestions. Now, there are no right or wrong answers to these questions. A lot of the time when we have discussions, we know that that's the case. But let me share my thoughts with them. I would say reading is an active activity. It is something that we actively do. We can't just engage with a book without doing the reading. We are reading, we are actively reading a book. So I would say that this would, if we had this in a sentence, we would say the girl is reading the book and she's actively doing it. Now, the middle one, I would say it could happen either way. Sometimes you actively watch TV. Sometimes you're very active in watching it and you're really engaged and excited and talking about it with your friend and the person next to you. But sometimes we can quite passively watch TV, can't we? We can sit on the sofa having a daydream, the TV's on, and we're just sort of passively consuming the noise and the sounds from the TV. So those are two different ways of thinking about that. I think eating could be the same as well. Sometimes we can actively eat. Oh, we're starving hungry and it's our favourite dinner and we're really enjoying all the smells and the tastes and the flavours and the textures of the food. But sometimes we're just sort of sitting on the sofa on a Saturday and we've got our bowl of popcorn or bag of crisps or something. We're just sort of passively just eating. Um, so what I'm hoping that you understand from these and from those discussions or from your thoughts on them is really getting into the detail of what we mean by active and passive as words. That's going to really come in useful when we start to think about active and passive verbs. Okay, active or passive verbs. Let's look at this super simple sentence. The man walked his dog. In this sentence, we have the man, the subject, the person the sentence is about, the verb walked, the past tense of the verb to walk, and his dog, the object. So we always need to start when breaking sentences apart by identifying the verb. In this case, it is walked. Now, who is doing the walking? Who is the subject? It's the man. The man walked. And who is the object of the walk? Who is the thing being walked? It's the dog. So in active sentences, this is an active sentence. The man walked his dog. We have this pattern: subject, verb, object. And we have a simple past tense verb here. The man, subject, the person the sentence is about, the person who is doing the verb, walked, verb, simple past tense, his dog, the thing that the verb is happening to. Let's have a look at another one then. We can see that it's exactly the same structure. Goldfish ate their food. So the goldfish are the subject. They are the things doing the verb in the sentence. What is the verb? They are eating. The simple past tense of the verb to eat is ate. And what is the thing that the verb is happening to? It's their food. So the goldfish are actively eating their food. The goldfish ate their food. Subject, verb, object. However, sometimes we might get sentences which they're telling us the same information, but they are expressed in a different way. They are expressed in a passive way. So let's start by switching these around. So instead of the man walked his dog, we could switch this sentence around so it's in the passive voice to say the dog was walked by the man. Okay, let's start by identifying our verb. We see the verb walked just like we had in our first example. However, you'll notice that the verb is now surrounded by some phrases. So this is now a passive verb. The reason it's a passive verb is because we've put the object first. So the dog was walked by the man. The man is still the person doing the walking, and the dog is still the object of the walk. The dog is the one who is being walked, who the walking is being done to. So, but because I put it this way round, this now becomes a passive sentence. The dog was walked by the man, and it follows this structure: object, passive verb, subject. Let's have a look at another example. Goldfish ate their food becomes food was eaten by the goldfish. Let's start as always by identifying the verb. The verb phrase here was eaten by. So it's still a past tense verb. However, I put the subject at the beginning of the sentence. The food was eaten by the goldfish. This is now a passive verb sentence. This sentence is in the passive voice because it has this pattern: subject, verb, object. The thing that the verb is happening to is first, followed by the verb, followed by the object. The food was eaten by the goldfish. So stop, pause the video, read these and discuss or share or think about what you think. Sorry, wait for that to go. What you think these are going to be. The bus seats were all taken up by the football team. The delivery driver knocked on my door and left the package. Okay, now I've deliberately made these not completely simple sentences, so they are going to require a little bit of thought. So remember, first, what you want to do is identify the verb, what is happening in the sentence. And then you need to say, is it the object is having the verb happen to it, or the subject is actively doing the verb? I hope that makes sense. Pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. Let's have a look at this first example. The bus seats were all taken up by the football team. Okay, so what is the verb here? Can you identify it? It is taken up. So my whole verb phrase would be were all taken up by. So what is the thing doing the taking up? Are the bus seats doing the taking up, or are the bus seats having the taking up done to them? Well, of course, in this example, the bus seats are the object of the sentence. They are the thing that is the verb is acting on. The bus seats were all taken up by the football team. We can see this follows this pattern: subject, verb, object. The bus seats, the object of the sentence, were all taken up by the passive verb, the football team, the subject, the thing doing the verb. The football team are the ones doing the taking up of the bus seats. This one then, the delivery driver knocked on my door and left the package. Okay, in this example, we have two verbs happening, the verb knocked and the verb left. So, the delivery driver knocked on my door and left the package. So, two things are happening here. Who is doing the knocking and the leaving? Is the knocking being done by the door, or is the knocking being done by the delivery driver? Well, of course, it's the delivery driver, the subject, who's knocked, verb, on my door, the object. So this follows this subject, verb, object formula. Delivery driver, subject of the sentence, the person being the verb, actively does the verb. The delivery driver knocked on my door. The door is the object, and left the package. Left, so the delivery driver left the package. Still an active sentence. We're very rarely going to mix active and passive voices in the same sentence. Okay, this is just clarification of that. The bus seats are the object. They were all taken up, which is the passive verb, by the football team, who are the subject. And just what we were talking about there, these are in the active voice because they go the subject, the delivery driver, knocked or left, which is the verb, and object, the door or the package. So what's the point then? Why don't we just always have active voice? It's easier. It doesn't require as many words. Why don't we always have that? There are a couple of really good examples. Other than just adding some variety to our writing, there are a couple of times when it would be really useful to use the passive voice. One of them is when we don't know exactly who did something. So we don't know who the subject of the sentence is. For example, the window has been smashed. So the window is the thing that has been smashed. So we have the object and then the verb after it. You can notice in this sentence that it doesn't actually have a subject. So that has to go in the passive tense, because if we just said smash the window, it's not a full sentence, is it? So the window, the object first, has been smashed, the passive verb there. A time when it's really, really key to use this, and you are doing this in your writing this week, so this is going to be really useful for you, is when we are reporting events like in a newspaper. For example, the bicycle was stolen on Friday night at around 1 p.m. This reporting tone, this passive tone, is really important and a really key feature of newspaper articles. So instead of saying, a man came and stole the bicycle at 1 a.m., instead, we are just reporting the facts. We said the bicycle was stolen. If we look at that key bit there, the bicycle, the object, was stolen. So we have the verb after the object. Object, verb, in that order, object, then verb. So the focus of these sentences you'll notice in is the thing that happened, not the person who did it. We are just reporting on an event that happened and not bringing in who did it. The window's been smashed. The bicycle was stolen on Friday night at 1 a.m. what you can notice is I'm not talking about who did them just yet. I'm simply reporting the fact that an event has happened. That's why we want to use the passive voice on occasion. Let's have a look then at your independent task. It's nice and straightforward. The first one, you are going to follow this pattern, highlighting the verb in yellow, the subject in blue, the person doing the verb, and then the object in green. They should all follow the same pattern. I just want you to identify the simple past tense verb. Some of them might have extra words in them, like prepositions or something like that. You can either leave those blank or you can highlight them whichever way you think is best. As then I want you to read this bit, you'll notice that all of the sub sentences follow the same pattern. Then what I want you to do is flip the pattern so we have the passive voice. The dog was walked, so the man walked the dog becomes the dog was walked by the man. That is super simple. So you do then have to go on and prove to me that not only can you do it when the sentences exist for you, but also you can do it in a small paragraph in the passive voice. Please complete those 3 tasks. 1, the highlighting, 2, the switching to passive, and 3, writing the small paragraph. 3 sentence minimum. Off you go.